buying a gun for someone who is not allowed to, that's a crime. It could cost you up to 15 years in jail and a $250,000 fine. If someone asks you to lie to a federally licensed firearm retailer so you can buy a gun for them, don't do it. Got a tip? Call 1-888-ATF-TIPS. That's 1-888-283-8477. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the ATF.
The river broke, the bloodwood and the desert oak, holding wrecks and boiling diesels, steaming 45 degrees. The time has come to save fair's fair, to pay the rent, to pay our share. The time has come. A fact's a fact. It belongs to them. Let's give it back. How can we dance when our earth is turning? How do we sleep while our beds are burning? How can we dance when our earth is turning?
A band maybe ahead of its time. It was on this day in 1987 that Midnight Oil released their sixth album. It was called Diesel and Dust, and it was inspired by their tour of Indigenous communities in the Australian outback. That single from the album Diesel and Dust, Beds Are Burning, is a demand to give back Aboriginal Australians their rightful land, because that became the band's breakthrough hit. And the year later, 1988, when the album was released in the U.S., Rolling Stone named it the best album of the year. They weren't done either. About the fall of 2010, Diesel and Dust was listed at number 1 in the book 100 Best Australian Albums. Diesel and Dust from Midnight Oil, released on this day in 1987. Beds Are Burning, a single from that album. And in keeping with the theme of Indigenous communities, I hope you will be around for the story today, about 10:15 or so. We're going to talk about First Assist, the First Assist Trappers, an Indigenous hockey team on the ice tonight at the Eli Palfreyman Memorial Tournament in Ayr. And we'll learn more about what First Assist is all about from its founder and former NHLer. Do not ask me what team he played for or was drafted by, but nonetheless, their coach and founder of First Assist will join us on the show around 10:15 today, so you can learn more about it. Hey, how you doing? It is 7 minutes after 9 on this Thursday morning, the 21st of August. I get accused from time to time of trying to do the shock thing on this show. You know, me and my hot takes. So in keeping with that, I would never want to let you down. Here is my hottest of hot takes this morning. And do not even consider atting me on this or coming at me for it. I stand by this firmly. I will not be swayed in this position. Vanilla ice cream should be banned. What is that garbage anyway? There is no such thing as a good vanilla ice cream. I had me a little craving last night. I couldn't help myself. You know how it is. And you also know me. If there's sugar involved, I tend to crave those sorts of things. So there I went into the freezer, and all I could find. I'm not even sure anybody in that house loves me if they're buying vanilla ice cream. In fairness, it went with a nice strawberry shortcake some time ago. What else are you going to put with the strawberry shortcake? But in and of itself, vanilla ice cream is, we should just stop making. I don't understand the point. There's no such thing as a good vanilla ice cream. We should just stop. Why would you waste your time on vanilla when there are so many other awesome things you can do with ice cream? Do not come at me for that. I'm not going to change my mind.
It's the final countdown.
All right. Let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Number 1, Air Canada expects most of its North American routes to be back up and running today. Its online dashboard said last night that 97% of domestic flights were expected to operate over the next 24 hours, along with 99% of U.S. flights. And as you heard during All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas, our very own Josh Piercy stranded. The poor guy is stranded in Edmonton. I mean, Woodstock might be the only other worse place to be stranded than Edmonton, right? Come on with your coming on. Get Piercy back home to us here. Number 2, Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand is in Washington, D.C. today for a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The visit comes after Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc was in the U.S. Capitol last month looking for a tariff off-ramp for Canada. Shortly after that visit, U.S. President Donald Trump boosted duties on Canada to 35% on goods not compliant with Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement on trade. Canada is also being hammered by tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper, and automobiles. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Congratulations to the Martin family of Elmira. You see what I did there? I said the Martin family of Elmira. If you know, you know. Elmira is in beautiful Woolwich Township, and we all know that the name Martin is about as common as the name Martin in Woolwich is about as common as the name Smith anywhere else. But in this particular case, we're talking about the Martin family whose son is Brady, drafted by Nashville, 5th overall in this summer's NHL draft. And Brady Martin has signed his entry-level pro contract with the Predators. That'll buy a lot of feed for the family farm in Elmira. Brady put up 72 points last season in the OHL with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Number 4, the Humane Society of Kitchener-Waterloo in Stratford, Perth, has a winner in its Oasis 50/50 VIP raffle. The animal shelter was offering 2 Oasis exhibition fan packages with tickets to the band's sold-out Toronto show at Rogers Stadium this weekend, along with $500 in travel cash as a prize for its 50/50 raffle. And Jackie Strauss is the lucky winner of not only the concert tickets, but more than $18,000 as her half of the 50/50 jackpot prize. That means the Humane Society also has more than $18,000 to fund essential programs, including outreach and veterinary care, sheltering, and adoption services for thousands of pets each year. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this Thursday morning, the Sun Life Waterloo Busker Carnival begins tonight, filling uptown Waterloo with fire, music, and world-class entertainment, all for free. That's right, FREE, free, my favorite 4-letter word. This year's carnival features, beer and forget it. It's free. Buskers, uptown, starting tonight. 60 shows, 20 world-class entertainers. It runs through Sunday. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. When we come back, your morning wake-up call. Our phone line's already open to you. And I would like to talk to Zero, Mr. Vision Zero, if I could have a moment. I'll tell you why coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Our phone lines open every day the minute we begin this show. Your voice is always welcome. Share a thought. Give me your own hot take. And before I page Mr. Zero again, Mr. Vision Zero, let's go to the phones. Hear from Doug this morning. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike.
How are you, friend?
You know, Mike,
yes.
I couldn't come at you if my life depended on it. You know that.
I know.
But I'm offering a dissenting opinion on vanilla ice cream.
No, don't you dare. Did you not listen to me, Douglas? I said don't do this.
Well, I have 2 grandsons who absolutely adore the stuff.
Well, then you're a bad grandfather.
if we ban the ice cream, what do I do? I'm saying, and Neapolitan ice cream would be nothing without vanilla. I couldn't help but offer that anyways. But anyway, it's like raisins and butter tarts. You know?
Oh my gosh, what are you doing to me this morning, Doug? Come on.
Good morning, man.
All right, you too. I'm sorry. I can't. I tried. I even put M&Ms into the ice cream. You know me and my obsession with sugar. Anyway, it's just bad. Okay, so let's just agree on that and move on and never buy the vanilla ice cream again, because they'll trick you. They'll put a fancy name on it and say it's this kind of vanilla or that kind of vanilla. It's still crap. Sorry, I'm sorry. Not really. I have to be honest with you. And I was craving it. Oh, I was craving some ice cream. Vanilla ice cream. Not even M&M's could spruce it up. Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking about Mr. Zero, Mr. Vision Zero. You know, I was away last week. I spent some time riding around this gorgeous province of ours. I love this place, especially when you get up north of Barrie into some more open area and some more interesting roads. And I'm on the motorcycle enjoying time with my buddy. And almost every town, I shouldn't even say almost, every town you go through, you run into the same ding-dang nonsense, in my opinion, when it comes to getting through that town. Heaven forbid we, get off the main road and try to go into the town to enjoy a meal or a beverage or something, because everywhere you go, there's this bike lane here, there's this speed limit there, there's this speed camera coming. Bottom line is, it's not just the region of Waterloo, okay? This is everywhere. It's like an epidemic on roads in small towns and big towns across this province. And so here's the thing. Like, I understand the Vision Zero concept. It's a lovely concept that we want to create an environment where there are no serious injuries or fatalities on our roads. And I know this isn't going to be popular, okay? But can we just be honest about this? What are we, like, as noble as that intention is, zero fatal collisions or serious injuries resulting from collisions on our roads. It's not going to happen. It's just not. If you look at, and you know me, I like statistics, I like data. If you look at the data, it will tell you that in this province, Ontario, we have some of the safest roads in North America. Okay? And the biggest problems on those roads are impaired drivers and distracted drivers. So a speed enforcement camera is not going to stop somebody from driving drunk. A 40 kilometer per hour speed limit is not going to stop somebody from driving distracted. So I think we've become a little bit obsessed. And so this is why I want to meet Mr. Vision Zero, because I think he's played a pretty good game here, because now we've got all of this infrastructure and there's a whole little sub-industry of street design and bollards and signs. Oh my goodness, the people making the signs. There's a lot of money being spent by municipalities on, really, like, what are we looking at here? The more people we have, this is just law of averages, right? The more people on our roads, the greater the likelihood of something going awry. And I would further submit to you that it takes two of us to make for a really bad thing to happen here for the most part, right? Yes, sometimes people driving vehicles are going to run right through an intersection where the light is red. And in order for that to be a really bad outcome, another person crossing the street is going to have to do that without first looking around to make sure. I know they want to or expect the road to be absolutely clear because it's their turn to walk, but if you take another second, you might just avoid that terrible outcome. Really what it comes down to, I feel so strongly about this after driving around so much last week. What we're attempting to do with all of this, a speed camera here, a lower speed limit there, we're trying to legislate against stupidity. We're human beings. We are prone to error. And I'm not saying that we should just give up entirely. What I am saying, and this ties into something I talked about the other day when I was very fired up, very upset about this inability we seem to have to get some things done, right? Like this transit hub and phase 2 of light rail. Like what? It seems like these projects just go on and on and on forever. And I can't help but wonder, after my tour around this province last week, and lots of time to think when you're riding the motorcycle, I just wonder if we aren't a little bit distracted, right? We're focused on too many different things we're trying to do here. We got to get back to the meat and potatoes. Let's take the condiments off the table, okay? I want my meat. I want my potatoes. And yes, I know we can walk and chew gum at the same time, but it feels to me like we might just be chewing gum too much. It's no wonder we can't get anything done because we think we're solving the world's problems on our roads by lowering speed limits to 40 kilometers per hour or banning right-hand turns on red lights. The roads are already among the safest in North America. If you could demonstrate that you could walk and chew gum at the same time, I'll get behind you. But right now, you're just chewing gum, and we're missing the big things. We're missing the big things. I think we're too distracted, trying to do too much. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Christine sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com. She says, you can't fix stupid, and this is it. We have a housing crisis, a climate emergency, and we're running around putting up speed cameras and lowering speed limits. This is where are the priorities here? If you have an emergency or a crisis, I would think that would be your top priority. Next time a municipal politician comes to your door, ask them how many houses they've built recently. Jerry is on the phone with us. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm upset. I don't know why I'm so fired up. It must have been the vanilla ice cream last night.
Might have been. There is a use for it, but we'll have to agree to disagree. Apple pie and vanilla ice cream is the steam.
Nah. Butterscotch. Anyways, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to share an experience because I was in Ottawa a few weeks ago, and I went through one of their newer neighborhoods, and the calming measures that they had in place in this neighborhood was exhausting. Like, I felt by the time I got through it, I achieved an obstacle course between, I don't know what you call them, the little signs that they post in the middle of the lanes you try to navigate between all the other calming measures. My focus, talk about distracted, I was so distracted trying to navigate between all these signs and this and that. If there was somebody that ran out in front of me, I wouldn't have seen them because my focus isn't on the sides of the roads. It's trying to navigate between all these little signs they've got set up. So I think they went a little too far. I wouldn't want to live in that neighborhood, I'll tell you.
You know what, Jerry? I love the way you described that. Exhausting is the perfect word for it. That was exactly my experience last week and why I'm still feeling so frustrated about it today. Maybe the ulterior motive is to make it so exhausting to drive that you stop doing it. Okay, there might be other ways to achieve this because what I'm feeling is that we do these things and we create these in neighborhood obstacle courses to exhaust people driving. And we feel like we've accomplished something really meaningful. And I'm sorry to say, the big stuff, you're missing it. You're already 3 years late on your transit hub. Already 3 years late and still 4 years away from finishing if you meet the next deadline. How is that not a higher priority than the obstacle course in a neighborhood? An update from the 570 News Center, and then let's talk about defending one's home. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
So this criminal that's wanted by the police breaks into this guy's house. This guy gives him a beating, and this guy gets charged. And the other guy gets charged. But something is broken. I know if someone breaks into my house or someone else's, you're going to fight for your life. This guy has a weapon. You're going to use any force you possibly can. And guess what? Some bleeding heart judge, little Johnny, he didn't have a good upbringing. So we're going to let him out on bail 5 more times just to go do the same thing the next day. I'll tell you one thing. I get more calls than anyone in the country. People are done with this. They're absolutely done. They're finished. You should be able to protect your family. And maybe these criminals will think twice about breaking into someone's home.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That is Ontario Premier Doug Ford yesterday responding to the news out of Lindsay, Ontario, near Peterborough. The story I'm sure you know well by now. Intruder breaks into apartment. Apartment owner confronts intruder and beats him. Beats him pretty good. The intruder needed to be airlifted to an out of Region Hospital, his injuries were so severe. And now both the intruder and the apartment owner have been charged by police. Ari Goldkind is a criminal defense lawyer and someone we turn to in times like these, as we do again this morning. Good morning, Ari.
Mike, great to be with you.
Great to have you here, because I would really hope you can help us understand better, Ari, what we are allowed, if you will, to do in Canada to protect our home. As I understand it, this gets all caught up in the idea of what level of force is reasonable to protect our home and property.
Yeah, so it's actually a very simple issue, and everybody who has an opinion on it in some way is right, even if they're diametrically opposed. Here's the story. In Canada, different than Florida, Texas, red states, where if you bust into somebody's castle, it's called the castle doctrine, basically all bets are off if you're defending your life or your family. Now, this is very different than if somebody's on your driveway breaking into your car. You don't have a right to shoot them or do anything violent at that moment. There's a very famous case out of Hamilton that changed the laws on this. Believe it or not, that person's name was Peter Kill. I'm not making that up. That's not a joke. When you break into somebody's house in Canada, though, this is what gets Doug Ford quite properly riled up. And what is the law? The law is you can use no more force than is reasonably necessary to put the threat to an end, to end the threat to you. If you go beyond that, which again assumes in the heat of the moment, adrenaline, middle of the night, being awoken from beds, a sort of scientific precision, a scientific self-control that I think is probably asking too much of the homeowner. If you go too far, there's going to be a problem for you. And part of the story that has not been talked about by anybody we can get to. But the important part here is the police walk into the scene and they see that the intruder, who shouldn't be out on release, shouldn't be out on probation, shouldn't be out in the community, is wanted by the police. That's a question that the police haven't answered. If he's wanted by you, why haven't you got him? They'll say they don't have enough officers or enough resources. They're probably sending them to Toronto to allow Hamas to walk down the street. But the police walk in and see this intruder beaten within an inch of his life. He's airlifted. Now, that's an important detail here. He's airlifted to a Toronto hospital, according to the reporting. A local Lindsay or Peterborough hospital was not good enough. The homeowner also used a metal pipe. Now, your listeners would be like, well, wait a minute, Ari and Mike. Why shouldn't he use a metal pipe? Why shouldn't he use a gun to blow the intruder away? I'm thinking, and I'm hoping that I'm right, because if I'm wrong, it's a problem. But if I'm right, the police have a theory, and it's the police's decision, nobody else's. I get asked that all the time. The police walk in, and they probably had information come from the homeowner. This is a problem. He probably incriminated himself when the police asked him what happened, where at some point the threat was probably over. The intruder had taken a beating. But I guarantee you, almost to a certainty, that the police are going to say that once the intruder was subdued, beaten over, that the homeowner then decided to go a little Dirty Harry or Death Wish or John Wick on him. Your listeners, Mike, I'll end my answer here, are all, hey, Ari and Mike, that's exactly what should happen. He shouldn't be expected to act to a police officer-like amount of scrutiny, to a level of perfection. But I guarantee you there's a part of the story that is not yet being told. I think Kawartha Police should have been telling it. I don't like the secrecy of the story about why they charged them. But this has gotten a huge amount of national outrage. I understand it, Mike, and I think part of the reason people are so outraged is that most sane, normal, non-woke people understand right now that crime is out of control and there is a privilege being given to criminals that is not being given to the law-abiding homeowner.
What is that, or what could be that untold part of the story that we're not getting right now, Ari?
So the police respond to the call. There's no question about it. They come in. They probably see the homeowner, who may have a couple scratches and bruises, maybe. We don't know. His name is Jerry McDonald. He's a father. He's been interviewed. Some good reporting found him. But they have the intruder who is within an inch of his life. And as I said, they have to put him into a helicopter to Toronto. They probably say to themselves, look, something is amiss here. We have self-defense laws that are not complicated. I know a lot of people think they are. They aren't. The problem with them is that we leave them to the court to decide. And I've had smart people say to me, hey, Ari, I'd rather be tried by a jury of 12 than carried out by 6 pallbearers, if you get that reference. So the police come in and they probably say what happened. They see the intruder beaten within an inch of his life, and they charge the most serious charge in the criminal code under murder, which is aggravated assault, which means wounding, maiming, or endangering the life of another. And their position is Jeremy McDonald was justified in using force. Nobody will dispute that. But the charges suggest to me that the police had reasonable and probable grounds to say that the response, whatever you want to call it, just went too far. And again, Mike, I'm not stupid. I think 98.7% of your listeners would say, who cares, Ari and Mike? He should go as far as he wants. When you come into somebody's home at 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, all bets are off. Well, that's not our law. And if you want our law to change, don't bug Doug Ford. He can't change the law. You go call our crappy, horrible, almost, I'm going to say, useless justice minister, and the previous one before it, and our useless federal government. And if you don't like the laws that get Jeremy McDonald charged, you go to your MP. That's where this is, and I just wish the police weren't so tight-lipped about it, because by being tight-lipped under the excuse, well, we don't want to poison the jury pool, this, that, and the other. We haven't even been told the name of the intruder, by the way. That's an important thing that bothers me. Why is that? The police could do a bigger service here and come out in a press conference and say, this is what we think, X, Y, and Z. They haven't, and I think it's to their own detriment.
Ari, always appreciate your perspective. Thanks very much for making time for the show.
Good to be with you, Mike.
Ari Goldkind, criminal defense lawyer. I love the way he summed it up, so I didn't have to ask for further clarification. If you want this law changed, if you think we should have something like the Castle Doctrine here, talk to your MP. Worth noting that Prime Minister Mark Carney has talked about bail reform, so maybe there is an opportunity for some movement on changes to our criminal code here in Canada. I'm not suggesting it would be the implementation of a Castle Doctrine, but Ari is absolutely right, as he always is, when he says, if you have an issue with the way this plays out, take that issue to your MP's office. I am yet to hear from a single person in all of the news reporting I've read, seen, heard since this story came out yesterday. I have not heard from one person who felt as though the homeowner was unjustified. Everybody unanimously has been on team homeowner. Will that change today? I'd love to hear from you on this and let me know how you feel about the story. Was the homeowner justified in his response? This is the Mike Farwell Show. Your calls next on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
If you don't like the laws that get Jeremy McDonald charged, you go to your MP. That's where this is, and I just wish the police weren't so tight-lipped about it, because by being tight-lipped under the excuse, we haven't even been told the name of the intruder, by the way. That's an important thing that bothers me. The police could do a bigger service here and come out in a press conference and say, this is what we think, X, Y, and Z. They haven't, and I think it's to their own detriment.
Ari Goldkind is a criminal defense lawyer, joins us this morning to discuss further the case in Lindsay, where an apartment owner beat an intruder severely. The intruder had to be airlifted to a Toronto hospital from the Peterborough area, and now both apartment owner and intruder are charged. To be honest with you, like the fact that we have limits on the force used. You can use force, reasonable, and I know that gets a little subjective, but I think that's okay. Where I really have a problem here, and you heard Ari make reference to it, is that this intruder already had a record. One of the charges facing him is failing to comply with probation, which means this person has already been in contact with our system and is on some sort of probationary term. So I would say our system already failed this apartment owner. And if the system will fail, we're going to have to step in and take care of things ourselves, because how can you trust the system when it fails you? And this directly failed him. That's where I'm really frustrated with this story. Let's go to the phones. Brenda, good morning.
Good morning. I'm all for the homeowner with regard to this repeat offender, and I stressing repeat offender. Maybe the guy, while he's in hospital, will think twice about doing it again. Who knows? But I'm all for the homeowner because I believe in, I was raised and believe in to get off your derriere and get out and work for what you want in life. You don't steal from somebody else because you want it.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Brennan, and you sound a lot like Ontario Premier Ford then, right? Maybe they'll think twice before they break in if they know that the outcome could be beaten within an inch of your life. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. I think what you're hearing in a lot of Canadians online and both on this show is the absolute frustration with our dysfunctional justice system. The guy was out on parole, breach of probation, whole bunch of other charges, and he breaks into a house at 3:40 a.m. in the morning. Now, I do believe there should be some force limits, like you shouldn't be able to beat your a neighbor who is elderly and has Alzheimer's and who may wander into your home. But in this case, I think the homeowner did what anybody would do. You can't understand what he was feeling in the heat of the moment. He was protecting his family, and I think instead of complaining about the police department and everything else and the judges, we need to go to the MPs like Bartis Charger and everybody else and demand that the laws be changed. Because what did Ari say to you? Better than being judged by 12 than being carried out by 6. And I am so sick of this that you're not allowed to defend yourself.
Well, and again, Mike, and I appreciate the call. I got to move on because more people want to weigh in. You are allowed to defend yourself within reason. But to your point about taking this to your MP, like Ari Goldkind suggested, I'm all for it. Like, eventually, we just have to stop taking our medicine and say, well, you know, that's the way it works. It doesn't have to be this way. It's supposed to be a government by the people, for the people. And I have not yet heard from one people, I say deliberately, that is not in support of the homeowner in this regard. So if this is what the people say, then I would like to think that's what our system creates. Paul, good morning.
Good morning. So according to our wonderful Liberal government, at 3:40 in the morning, the homeowner should have greeted the intruder at the front door with the keys to his vehicle and his wallet in hand and say, here you go, thank you very much. You can be on your way now. Now, should the intruder decide that he still wants more, now does our government expect me to frisk him to determine whether or not he has a deadly weapon which he's going to try and use on me and possibly kill me and my family. So I got to frisk him first to make that decision as to, do I use the feather duster to beat him away, or do I grab the baseball bat and do the right job?
All right, Paul. I hear where you're coming from. An exaggerated point to start, but I understand why you make it the way that you do. As I said, with one of the charges against this intruder being failing to comply with probation, clearly he's already been in contact with our system, and the system has failed this homeowner, because if the probation were being complied with, the intruder would not be breaking in. Perhaps if the probationary terms had not been granted, the intruder wouldn't be in public to break into somebody's home. The system lets you down. What are you supposed to do in return? We're going to take a break. When we come back, I played for you at the beginning of this, Ontario Premier Doug Ford's words about the break-in and how he felt about that. But did you hear the Premier? This is vintage Doug Ford. If you missed it, what he had to say about the owner of Stelco in Hamilton. Oh, boy. Vintage Doug Ford coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Some of our leaders like to sound off and kind of ramble when they do. They might not really have a point or can't get to it. But if it's one thing you can say about Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, it's that he has a point and he gets to it. And when Doug Ford goes off the cuff, it can be entertaining, to say the least. If you missed it, I wanted to make sure you got the chance to hear this vintage Doug Ford from a news conference yesterday when he went off the cuff about the owner of Stelco.
We have the greatest workers in the world, and we can compete, and we will compete, and we will make sure that we have their backs. We'll make sure companies, be it DeFasco or Goma or Stelco, and by the way, not the workers at Stelco, because I love the workers, but their owner, I got a problem with that guy. He's signing all these forms, Cleveland Cliffs or whatever the heck their name is, bring the steel down to the U.S., That's the owner. He doesn't give two hoots about his workers at Stelco. Maybe they should find a new owner for Stelco. Or maybe we should just buy him. And why doesn't he just stay in the U.S.? Because I'm done with this guy signing letters saying, yeah, bring all the steel down to the U.S., tariff the crap out of Canadians. This is the owner. So remember that, Stelco workers, when your owner comes prancing through your place. He doesn't support you. And I look forward to getting a phone call from him because he has my cell number.
Thank you.
I'm going to blast him. Sorry, guys. I get passionate about this because I want to protect our country and our province. And I love the frontline workers. And if I don't kick back, no one else is going to kick back at these guys.
I'm done with that guy. He doesn't give two hoots about the workers. Ontario Premier Doug Ford, off the cuff, unplugged yesterday during a news conference. Love him or lump him, I think that kind of what I describe as vintage Doug Ford is one of the biggest reasons that people really like him. He sounds like a guy that you could have a beer with. An update from the 570 News Center, and then a star hockey player snubs our Kitchener Rangers. We'll talk to General Manager Mike McKenzie next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Obviously, you want to play in the CHL. It's arguably one of the best leagues for junior, and that was probably the biggest thing for me, that rule change, because I wanted to go play college, and obviously Kitchener's a first-class organization, and I want to play for them. I think just the exposure and playing against top-of-the-top players and winning games with Kitchener, obviously great fans here, and it's electric during a game here. I can't wait to play in front of the ecstatic fans and win some games with Kitchener. Hopefully bring a M Cup to the city.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That was 17-year-old hockey star Adam Valentini. A couple of months ago in June when he signed his standard agreement to play for the Kitchener Rangers this season. But something changed because a week before training camp is to open, that starts next week for the Rangers, Adam Valentini said, you know what? I'm not going to come to Kitchener. Instead, I will go to the NCAA and play for the University of Michigan. Mike McKenzie is the general manager of the Kitchener Rangers, joins us to talk about it this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mike. How's it going?
Not bad. How about you?
Good, thanks. Ready for hockey season here.
It is that time, isn't it? It's great. Great time of year.
Yeah, it is. We're excited to get going next week.
Do you know what changed with Adam that he decided to go to Michigan instead of honoring that commitment to the Kitchener Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the whole story, but it sounds like it's really as simple as, for whatever reason, Michigan lost a player or had a spot open that they didn't think they would have open. And at the last minute, an opportunity became available to add a player, and they chose Adam as the guy that they wanted to bring in earlier than expected. So they made a pitch to him, and that was the direction that Adam and his family decided to go. And he's off to Michigan.
Is this life in the Ontario Hockey League these days, Mike, with that NCAA rule change last year that allows players to go back and forth between the two leagues? Is this the new way of doing business?
Yeah, I think yes and no. I think it's definitely you're going to see a lot of things like this happening. I mean, we have seen a lot of things like this happening with player movement both ways. Lots of players coming to our league that maybe otherwise wouldn't have, and lots of players going to the NCAA that otherwise wouldn't have been able to with the old rules. So I think it's definitely, you're going to see a lot more movement. Things like this are going to happen. Both sides. It's kind of the circle of life in hockey now, and we're fortunate to benefit greatly from the rule change and adding players like Jack Pridham and Christian Humphreys, Jacob Jou, and Adam would have been in that group too, as guys that were committed to go to school and now can do both. So it's one of those things that it's definitely going to happen, and we just got to do our best job to make sure we're trying to retain our players and recruit the players we want here. And some of it's a little bit out of our control with some of the stuff going on in the NCAA, but we're just focused on ourselves, and we've got to be very flexible at this point. And I don't think anyone really knows how the next 2-3 years are going to go and how this is all going to look in a couple of years. Everything's happening for the first time. So we're really interested to see how some of this shakes out, and we're ready to adapt and kind of fly by the seat of our pants a little bit, adapting to the new reality and new world we're in.
Is this an indicator in any way, Mike, that the Kitchener Rangers have more to do to adapt to this new reality, to ensure that they remain competitive and an attractive place to play?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's such a unique circumstance because it's really, I'm sure there might be other ones, but off the top of my head, in the years I've been in the league, I can't recall a player that's actually signed to play for a team, but physically hasn't played it, never got to play a game for them. So it's a little unique that way, in the sense that we felt like we had won a recruiting battle and done a good job, and then all of a sudden we've lost the recruiting battle. So these guys are a little bit unique in the sense that they were committed before they came here. So every player's in kind of a weird spot right now. We've got guys that were committed before signing with us. We've got guys that will commit while they're playing for us. We've got guys that maybe won't commit ever. So it's going to take a couple of years to kind of sort out, and we're kind of in that awkward phase where there's guys kind of all over the place. And we've even seen guys committing now. There's players committing to schools as 2009 players that just got drafted and have signed this summer with their OHL team, but also made a commitment to a school a month later, and they're doing both. So they've committed to an OHL team, they're going to training camp, they're going to play there for a year, 2, 3 years, but they've also committed to a school and they're going to play there at some point. And a lot of that stuff is unknown and big question marks on when they go, what year they go in, will they ever go? All those things are very big question marks for everyone involved.
And I guess one of the other interesting wrinkles now for a general manager like you in this league, Mike, is because there's movement back and forth, there can be, between the NCAA and the Ontario Hockey League. What if Adam Valentini decides, you know what, the water isn't as blue as I thought in Michigan. I want to come back to the OHL. The Rangers retain his rights, I think. So what would you have to do then as an organization? Do you welcome him back? Do you have to work out a trade? What would that look like?
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and who knows if it ever happens. So it's not something we're going to probably spend a lot of time thinking about. But at the end of the day, he definitely will not play for the Kitchener Rangers. I think that bridge has been burned, and we just couldn't possibly bring a player back after what had happened. That's just our thought process and our organization's belief, but that's something down the road that we don't really put too much time and stock in right now.
You mentioned at the beginning of this, it's an exciting time of year with training camp just around the corner, ready to get another season started. What do the next few days look like as we get ready for camp to break?
Yeah, we're just kind of putting the finishing touches on making sure we're really prepared for the first few days of camp, and we have the showcase weekend again this year, so we're excited about that. Get to see 3 games and 4 OHL teams come to Kitchener to play some exhibition games. So just kind of putting the finishing touches on camp preparations and making sure everything's in order to welcome these guys on Monday, and still working on signing some players and bringing some some guys to Kitchener in the next week or two. Even though camp's right around the corner, we're still working away at some player signings and things like that. So it's definitely an exciting time.
Does the change of heart for Adam Valentini leave a hole in your forward core?
I think it leaves a hole just in the sense that we had expected him to be here, and now he's not. So physically, there is one less player in our lineup that's signed. But I think if it could happen any year, this was probably a good year for it to happen, in the sense that we do have a lot of extra bodies. There is a lot of guys that we feel very excited about that maybe didn't have big roles on our team last year. Guys like Evan Hedrick, Hayden Ellis, Arquette played a lot, but he can take another step. Avery Anstis, Weston Cameron. I'm probably forgetting a couple, but these are guys that we really think the future's bright for some of these guys, and they can step up. And like I said, we're still trying to sign players. We're still trying to get a couple more players signed here at the finish line. So we'll see how that goes in the coming days. But I think we're in a really good spot in terms of bodies and numbers and depth on our team. So we're ready to move forward.
Mike, always appreciate the time you make for our show. Thanks very much for being here this morning.
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Thank you.
Mike McKenzie, General Manager of the Kitchener Rangers, joining us to talk about the surprise the team got a few days ago when the player they signed with a good deal of fanfare a couple of months ago decided just before training camp begins that he's going to go to the University of Michigan instead. Camp opens on Monday. That preseason showcase at the Memorial Auditorium next weekend, starting on Friday the 29th. You'll have 4 OHL teams, the Rangers plus 3 others in there to watch over the weekend. Fan Fest coming up on the 31st, a week Sunday, all kinds of things. Just getting underway as a new hockey season. Believe it or not, a new OHL season is upon us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, an Indigenous team, First Assist, takes the ice tonight in Ayr. We'll tell you more about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The Eli Palfreman Memorial Tournament opened last night in Ayr at the North Dumfries Community Centre as the Ayr Centennials host the annual Memorial Tournament. And tonight, those Sens will take on the First Assist Trappers in a 7 o'clock game at the NDCC. John Chabot is a former National Hockey Leaguer and the founder of First Assist and joins us to talk about it. John, good morning.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Great. Thank you, sir. How's it going with you?
It's going very well, thank you. Great weather here in Ottawa today. It's warmed up a bit, so might even end up going to Meech Lake for a swim.
Attaboy. I like to hear that. Nice job. Tell us more, John, about First Assist. How did this get started? What's it all about?
First Assist is a family. It started from my dad way back when he left the armed forces and started creating job opportunities for Indigenous kids across the country. And I just continued that on, but I target remote flying communities in the north. And what we try and do is, with my son Kyle and I, we started this, probably back when my son was 18. He's 40 years old now, so it's been 22 years that we've been traveling together around the country and just flying in, starting with hockey schools. And we realized at one point, with conversations, my son and I, that it wasn't enough. So we started going to schools more often. Then we realized, okay, there's got to be more. Let's give them more options. And it can continue to build and morph. And in 2021, one of the good things that happened to the lockout is it gave us time to sit down and apply for charity. We were a not-for-profit before, and charity status came through, and we've been off and running since.
What does it mean to the Trappers and the players on that team to be on the ice in North Dumfries tonight at this tournament?
Oh, people don't realize that, and it would be tough to realize if you've never been. But the extent that a lot of these northern kids have to go through. I'm not just talking northern Ontario and northern Quebec, but I'm also talking the north where you're looking at multi-thousands of dollars just to fly down to participate in tournaments, to leave home when they're 13 years old, to be able to play at a AAA level to give themselves a chance to play. And so having a tournament where a lot of these kids, as do the non-Indigenous kids in the South, they develop late. And a lot of these kids have developed a little bit later in life, and they've gone through their draft years not being noticed or picked. And so this is an opportunity for them to get seen and to get scouted a bit, to, if they want to get something out of hockey, and not necessarily a job in the sport, but maybe an education. Maybe get to play major junior, and that'll lead to something else. Now with the new rules of the NCAA, maybe that'll lead to a scholarship or a chance to go to school again. So for these kids, it's just a huge opportunity to be able to be seen, to be able to play against really good competition in a controlled environment, and really just to be given the opportunity. So you can't speak enough of Dave Manning and the program at St. Andrews and what they've done to facilitate this and give us that opportunity and these kids the opportunity. It's absolutely great.
When you look back, John, on your own career and the barriers you would have faced on your way to playing more than 500 NHL games, who helped you along the way? What made it possible for you?
I think, it's a different time and place. But, for example, my dad was in the force. Like I said, we'd left. One of the reasons we moved to Ottawa at that time was because of the hockey program. He knew that being in Nova Scotia, where we were living, we were kind of on the extreme at that time, and we weren't getting a lot of scouts, so we moved to Ottawa. And my first coach was a man named Henri Lalonde, and he was an electrician by trade, but he coached us. And I had an opportunity to play at a higher level, but I stayed back to play with my friends. It was probably the best decision because this guy supported me so much through the whole year by just letting me play and letting me learn my game. And so Henri Lalonde was great. My family was fantastic. Through my program, my wife has been great, but there was always those people along the way that took time out of their day and their time to coach at a time where, and coach for the right reasons. It wasn't about the glory for them. They wanted to pass on the knowledge that they had, whether it be a lot or whether it be a little. They were there every day. And Mr. Lalonde was one of those guys that I look back on very fondly. There's a soccer coach, a second division Spanish guy that came over, and he understood that he wanted me to play soccer, but he understood that hockey was my passion. So he trained me as a hockey player through what he's learned through professional soccer, Tino Gonzalez. And I mean, just a little 5'2" guy with a huge attitude. But these are the gentlemen in my life that really, that have left a lasting impression. And one of the reasons I do what I do, because these guys reached out to me and helped me when they didn't have to. And, as a First Nations guy with First Assist, I was helped a lot by Indigenous, non-Indigenous people. And I see that through the travels, my son and I took that. There's a need for that in the North. And so we want to be able to at least try and help fill that void by giving these guys and these kids, these boys and girls, the opportunity to be seen and the opportunity to be supported. And maybe it'll lead to just, we just want them to have a life that they want to have. We don't expect NHL players. We want these kids to be able to succeed in whatever they choose to do. And we think the best way through that is a combination of sport and education.
It's a great story. Love what you're doing with First Assist and can't wait to watch the Trappers on the ice tonight in North Dumfries. John, thanks for what you do. Thanks for making time for the show. And I hope you get that dip in Meech Lake later today.
So do I, Mike. I'll send a text.
I look forward to it. All right, buddy. You take care.
All right, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
John Chabot, former NHLer, founder of First Assist. And what a night at the NDCC in Ayr, huh? The Sens, the Ayr Centennials, taking on the First Assist Trappers, who are part of the Eli Palfreman Memorial Invitational Tournament. Started yesterday, runs right through Sunday at the NDCC. Great sports story right in our own backyard this week. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I can't believe I've lasted this long. It's like a test, putting a Smartie in front of a chubby kid or something like that. Jen Tan, who is our board operator today, asked me earlier this morning if I like coffee candy, not cough candy. Well, I love coffee, although I don't put anything in my coffee. I take it black, like my soul. It's kind of weird because I also love sugar, but just not in my coffee. Anyway, you put those two things together. Of course, I'm going to love a coffee candy. So Jen brought me this candy and said, I want you to try it. If you like it, I'll bring more. I said, okay, but I have to wait for the right time. And we've just been so busy on the show, busy show for busy people. So I'm still holding on to this Kopiko coffee candy, real coffee extract from the finest Indonesia volcanic coffee beans. How can it not be good? We'll get to that, though, in the next little bit. I promise, because I want to. Do I like it? Do I get more of it? We're going to put this to the test a little bit later on this morning on the show. Right now, it's off to the 570 News Center for an update, and then Thursday mornings at 10:30, time for some Gary Chalk and Living Retired on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka, ooka chaka, ooka, ooka. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling.
Oh, we're going to have to see if we still know how to do this, Gary Chalk and I. And as I listen to the theme music for Living Retired, which we do every Thursday morning at this time on the show, except the previous 2 Thursday mornings when I was doing God knows what, God knows where, gallivanting around on holidays. That's why we have to see if we still know how to do this. But quickly, it just made me think as we played a theme song. Tomorrow's Friday. I haven't been able to come up with any sort of theme. I don't know if my synapses are firing properly, but I'll just remind you, it's an all request Friday on the show. So send me an email, mike@570news.com, or give us a call and let us know what song you want to hear on the show. Tomorrow, every song we play will be a request from you, because that's just the kind of people we are here at the program. The kind of people Gary Chalk is funny people. That's what Living Retired, the humor column, is all about. And Gary brings it to life on the show every week. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mike, with a mic. And yes, we have not done this so long. This proves, Mike, or may prove, when I worked, I was not allowed to have a 15-minute coffee break because they said, Gary, you'd have to be retrained. So this could be a problem.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how Mary on her bike survived these last couple of weeks without us. Yeah.
Well, I'm just hoping that she didn't stay on the bike the whole time.
Just pedaling away until we come back with your segment.
Mike, how are your knees?
You know what? They're less cranky today than they were last week when I got off that motorcycle, let's just say.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, you were gallivanting all around who knows where. I ended up at a musculoskeletal assessment center.
Who, what now?
What they do with this thing is when you got wonky knees and they're wonky so much, you finally struggle on that wonky knee and you go in. And you meet with an advanced practitioner, and she takes all your history, examines your knee, decides if you need knee surgery replacement. And it's all based on something which I think you can find online. It's called the Oxford Knee Score, and it's a series of questions out of Oxford University over in England. The result I have after they went through all this questionnaire is I have moderate to severe knee arthritis brought on by years and years and years of jumping on and off the Toronto Blue Jays and the Toronto Maple Leafs bandwagon.
I wondered if you had scraped your knees getting onto this Blue Jays bandwagon this year.
Oh, I'll tell you, it's fun. Jan and I, we're back on the bandwagon, of course, and so we sit down at the television every night pretty well, and we watch the Jays game. And to make it authentic, I serve beer and hot dogs, and then to make it just feel like I'm at the Jays game, I first of all squirt bright mustard all over my shirt, and that just sort of makes me feel like I'm at Looney Night at the Rogers Center.
I was just at the games on the weekend, Gary, and I tried to make that mustard on the foot-long hot dog as artistic as I could. I just splotched it everywhere.
Oh, I know, the poor guy sitting in front of you, right?
That's right.
And what gets me is when you're at the game, they're always showing all these people with the loony hot dog there. Then occasionally they'll pan the camera up to the broadcast booth. There's Buck Martinez with his Hollywood hair, dressed impeccably. And why is it he can eat a hot dog and there's no mustard on him? Like, why is that?
Well, he's a professional. He's a former player. They can do all kinds of things. Spit sunflower seeds, chew tobacco.
Well, you know what? He's learned well. Baseball is really the 3 S's. Starts with squirting. That's the mustard all over your clothes. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But the second S about baseball is spitting. It goes like this. The batter steps up to the plate. First thing he does, he spits. And what this does, it sets off a massive chain reaction. The catcher lifts his mask, he spits. The umpire lifts his mask, he spits. Then the camera focuses in on the pitcher in the mound, he spits. And this happens all before they throw the ball. And then, just as the pitcher's ready to throw the ball, the batter, the catcher, the umpire, they all squeeze in tight in position where they've all been spitting for the pitcher to throw the ball. This plays out on national television every pitch.
Such bad manners.
Oh, I tell you. And I did some research there in a typical Major League Baseball game. There's about 300 pitches thrown, 150 by each team. That's a lot of spitting, I'm telling you, Mike.
It sure is.
And if you stop to think about how much spitting it is, just to put it in context locally, we could take all your listeners on a bus outing. We could drive over to Stratford where they got the problem with the low lake level at Victoria Lake. We could all stand on the shore, spit, and refill the lake.
Who cares if the water levels are going down? We can raise them again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Jan, she looks at it, she says, oh my gosh, Gary, that's so gross. I wonder what his wife makes of it. And I said, dear, it doesn't matter. He gets paid lots of money. She counts it. Who cares?
There you go.
And so we've talked about the squirting of the mustard. We've talked about the spitting. And now this brings us to the third S of baseball, which is scratching.
Gotta be.
Don't know what it is. Every Major League Baseball player comes through the minors. When he hits the majors, he gets diagnosed with some sort of a rash that you can't see it, but it's got to be all over their body because as soon as they get on camera, they start to scratch themselves. And Jan, the spitting upset her. That upsets her even more. She said, look, where he's scratching himself again. And then she says, well, the catcher's doing it, the batter. She said, what's with that? And I said, Jan, it doesn't matter. Their wives are counting the money. She said, well, that's nuts. That's all I want to say about it.
Hey-oh, I hear what you did there.
You betcha. And then whenever there's a hit, the batter's on first base, and what do? They start talking. Vladdy and the opposing players smiling, chatting, and Jan said, well, they shouldn't be doing that. They're fraternizing with each other. And you got to agree with it. I mean, Vladdy's having lots of fun, but it is the opposition. So what I did was I took these three S's and I put them all together. So what we should do in our House of Commons up in Ottawa, here's a plan.
Okay.
They don't talk nice to each other.
They definitely don't.
They definitely don't. So here's the plan. What they should start doing is squirting mustard over their tie, spitting, scratching themselves, and act like they're a professional baseball player on first base chatting. They'd get something done.
Gary, you just might be on to something. Gary Chalk is the author of the humor column Living Retired. You can find it online, livingretired.press. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for the weekly newsletter. That column delivered directly to your inbox. It's way better than memos from the boss. We'll take a break. When we come back, Gary has discovered the Living Retired interns, a devastating new medical condition. We'll tell you about it as we continue Living Retired with Gary Chalk here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thursday mornings, 10:30, we're joined by humor columnist Gary Chalk. He writes the humor column Living Retired, which you will find online at livingretired.press. And here on the show every week as he brings the column to life, you might just find out about this devastating new medical condition. Gary, how on earth did you unearth this?
Oh, I'm telling you, Mike, well, first of all, when you're living retired, you have to work hard at it. So what basically...
I like that.
You like that?
I do work hard at living retired. I'm with you.
I'm with me. That's good. What we discovered, I sent out my column this past Monday, and I got a lot of feedback. Like, this is when it really, really hit home how significant this is and how prevalent it is. If I had to give a word for the result of the feedback, it was either revealing or scary. But basically, what happened is, I'll set it up. I was in our den about 2 weeks ago, and our den is located at the front of the house on the right-hand side. And Jan was over in our master bedroom, which is at the bathroom, which is the furthest part from where I was in the den. And she let out this blood-curdling scream, and she said, "Gary, you've been at it again. This time, you replaced the blue striped box of facial tissue with fluffy white clouds in the background. And in place, you put a black box that has gold circles and that does not match the bathroom decor." So you can see what's happening. And now, I should have known Jan would be upset. She's sort of a decorator. And so as an expert in those little small Pantone color chips you can get at the wallpaper and paint store, Jan, well, she makes me feel sort of what I would say is Pantone 16-6340 classic green with envy. So what I discovered is if toenail fungus isn't enough to worry about, now we have tissue issue syndrome. Tissue issue syndrome.
All right, so this is the condition we need to be aware of, tissue issue syndrome.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And really, as far as I could trace it back, it's back to when you said your wedding vows and guys agreed for better or worse. The worse is tissue issue syndrome. And do you have it in your home with matching tissue issue boxes?
Gary, listen, I did not want to give you a hard time. It's hard enough living retired. But my first thought when you changed the tissue boxes, Gary, what were you thinking? Like, you got to match it. Just get the same box, Gary. Got to get the same box.
I know, but it's been going on in our house for years. I came back from a shopping trip at Costco one, and I stocked up with a skid of facial tissue. And Jan said, "Gary, what on earth got on? We can't possibly use all this tissue." And I said, "Dear, you never know. Flu Susan may be a doozy. Besides, we go through boxes of tissue in the spring with your allergies, and me watching the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. I use lots of tissue there."
Come on, you're killing me. You're killing me.
Oh, dear. And then she said, "Gary, the color of the tissue boxes you bought have no place in our home. I'm sorry, you'll have to put them in the garage, or you can put them in your car, but not mine." So she went on to say that in the garage I could use these tissues in the wrong color boxes to wipe the dipstick when I change the oil in my lawnmower. I could use them when I need to clean up the paintbrushes, but that's it. So, Mike, for a while, and full disclosure, we're amongst friends, we have a soft teal-colored box of facial tissue on the kitchen countertop, and it sits right beside the stove where there is a teal-colored tea kettle. Now, every so often, I know, I would replenish that teal-colored box of Kleenex by opening up a full box of tissue from a color that obviously does not meet our decor standards, and I'd gently sort of pull apart that teal box, and I'd insert the other Kleenex into it and then tape it back up together. Sort of happy wife, happy life.
It is, but that is a lot of work. You're not kidding when you say it's hard work living retired.
Oh, you got to just keep up with things. One listener or reader responded to the column about tissue issue syndrome, and Ruth, and she said her husband has never, ever, ever bought a skid of facial tissue from Costco. Instead, he comes home with Costco rotisserie chickens, and he checks out. He has the $1.50 hot dog and pop, and pretends it's Looney Tuesday at the ballpark and squirts the mustard all over his shirt. I'm telling you, and also just so you know how debilitating tissue issue syndrome can be. I heard from Suzanne. She's a listener of your show here, and enjoys our chats on Thursdays. And she said, Gary, instead of matching the color of the box of facial tissue to the decor throughout her home, what she does, she told me this, she takes facial tissue boxes and coincides them with the change of seasons. So in the winter, she puts out a facial tissue box decorated with snowflakes. Come spring, Suzanne changes the boxes, and she has things that are pink, tulips. And in the summer, she says it's Adirondack chairs. In the fall comes the leaf. Mike, this, what Suzanne has, and if she's listening, I hope you're sort of sitting down, Suzanne, but the medical community has termed you as having acute tissue issue syndrome.
Gary, I never knew there was so much to tissue.
Oh, it's just amazing what goes on in our world.
Oh, I'll tell you. We've got tissue issues, but we're sorting them out here every Thursday morning with Gary Chalk. As always, friend, thanks for the laughs.
Hey, I'm telling you, tissue issue syndrome, Mike, it's enough to make a grown man cry.
Have a great week. We'll talk soon.
Take care, Mike. Bye now.
Gary Chalk is the author of the humor column Living Retired. Watch out for tissue issue syndrome. You can find Gary's column online. Participate in his surveys when the column comes out, just like Suzanne did. Find it online at livingretired.press. Sign up for the weekly newsletter, and that column will be delivered directly to your inbox. Lots of fun on Thursday mornings with Gary Chalk here on the Mike Farwell Show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I've waited long enough. It's been 2 hours with this candy sitting in front of me. I'm going to get Jen, our board operator, to explain it to me, and then we'll find out if I get more of the candy I can't pronounce, but that's made with real coffee extract from the finest Indonesian volcanic coffee beans. You had me at coffee. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We have Jen Tan with us today as a board operator on the show. And Jen so kindly brought me some candy earlier today. She knows I love candy, which is awesome. But I already pronounced it wrong. It's not a Copico candy at all. Jen, can you please explain the origins of this piece of candy you brought for me?
Okay. So it's actually from Indonesia, and you're right. It's very popular in Asia, most especially in the Philippines and in South Korea. So according to Google...
you consulted the Google on this?
I consulted the Google because they don't really remember everything about the details. But it says it has 80 milligrams of coffee in every candy.
Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? I think so, yeah.
And it relieves drowsiness, and it keeps you awake.
Are you saying I'm drowsy?
No.
Do I need to stay awake? Am I boring you today?
No, not exactly.
Not exactly. Okay.
But yeah.
Do you eat these candies?
I do. Like every day.
Every day?
Because I'm a coffee lover.
Oh, wait.
So.
I thought this was going to be a chewy candy. It's hard candy.
It's a hard candy.
You almost got me an appointment at my dentist there. Okay. I'm going to start eating it now.
Okay.
I feel weird saying I'm going to start sucking on the candy. I'm going to do it. Okay, there it goes. And then I'll continue consuming it through the news, and I'm going to be so awake by the time
you will be, for sure.
This update is over. Oh, that's strong.
It is strong coffee.
That has got, yes, real coffee extract from the finest Indonesian volcanic coffee beans.
It's real coffee.
Now I know how you stay awake for the show every day. My full report on the tastiness or lack thereof of this piece of candy is coming up. All right. Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
An update from the 570 News Center, and then how your AI chatbot might be giving away secrets about the business you run. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you were listening to the show yesterday, you may have heard me give one of our regular listeners, Kyle, a hard time because he used ChatGPT to come up with something that he then called in to share on the show. And I said, no AI on this show. You know how I feel about artificial intelligence. It kind of freaks me out. I'm not going to tell a lie. I think the machines are getting far too powerful, but that's just me. And I told Kyle when I gave him a hard time yesterday that the only time we will talk about AI on this show is when we talk about the technology and what it is doing. And so that's why we welcome a professor and Canada Research Chair in Cybersecurity and Threat Intelligence from the University of Guelph to the show. Ali Dehentana joins us. Ali, good morning.
Good morning.
You stole, sir, the sensitive information of a Fortune 500 company. And instead of being in hiding from the FBI, you're here to talk about this. What did you do? Why did you do it?
Well, I don't think stealing is the right term there, because I have been tasked to evaluate the security of the chatbots that they were using for making recommendation to their clients, to their advisors, right? So I had been required to actually do that. So that was my task. I was doing my job, right? But what was surprising was how easy it was to just bypass all the protection that you expect to see on the normal chatbots, which are called guardrails, right? And then surprisingly, being able to get access to what we call memory of those bots and starting to ask almost any question from like private projects that they are running, or what are the most important people plan are for the next week. And it will just keep giving me the answers, right, to the questions.
It's so interesting to me. So when you talk about this chatbot, Ali, you're talking about that window that might pop up when we go onto a website to ask us if we need help with something, and we can engage in conversation with that screen, right?
That's right, but technically what I was testing was an internal chatbot, right? So, so as an employee, you are having access to the chatbots created for doing your job, right? So, for example, if you are going to offer a product to a client, or giving some consultation on a specific question, then you are having your own internal chatbots, that those chatbots usually have access to the company's information, right, that can be used to help different people on their task. But they're supposed to be configured in the way that the people can get access only to the information relevant to them. So, for example, if you're an intern in the company, you're supposed not to be able to see the chats of the CEO, right, or get access to the internal project documents that are not relevant to you, which unfortunately was not the case for that specific business, right, that we were able to just bypass these guardrails and start fetching all the information that we need.
What would you have been able to do if you were a hacker, for example? What would you have been able to do with the information you got from the chatbot?
Okay, interesting. I can tell you, I have been in cybersecurity industry for more than 20 years, right? And I can tell you, before adoption of these AI and the chatbots, what we were trying to do when we are assessing the client security was we first get access to one of their less important systems, like intern system or like low-level employee system. And through those systems, we try to jump to their servers or to the more important machine or to their IT teams, right? So then we will have privilege to steal the data or exfiltrate the information. With that introduction of the chatbots being accessible everywhere in the company, we have get access to one of these low-level intern machines. And through that chatbot, we had access to all like internal projects, sensitive information about the client, even communication that were relevant to the C-level executives in that company, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if I were an attacker, I wouldn't need to move any further. I would just go for an intern machine, get access to that, and through that get the chatbot, and then get all the other information that I want from the chatbot, and then misuse it the way that I like, right? So, for example, if you have that kind of detailed information from a company, you can craft very well-defined phishing emails that everyone would click on that. You could craft messages to lure the employees to just make a transfer, right, the money transfer that you want. Because if you show them that you know a lot about the company, they will trust you, right? And more, beyond all of these, you could just directly get those information, private information, and sell it, right, on the dark web, or leak it, right, to the competitors, right, the way that the hackers are monetizing it, all this information.
So I'm pretty confident, Ali, that we're not going to stop using chatbots. They're here. I don't think they're going away. So what's the lesson here? How do we improve their security features?
I can tell you, we should stop treating AI, generative AI, like fast foods, right? These days what you would see is companies are just applying and implementing AI like right and left, with no consideration for security, trustworthiness, no control over what information are provided or leaked through these systems, right? These chatbots these days have access to a lot of private and sensitive information. So they need to be secured and protected like the crown jewels of the company, right? We need to make sure that not only these chatbots and the information that they give are protected. But even the employees who are using these systems are well trained, right, on what they should expect, what they can and cannot share, right, and where they should share the information with the AI. That I can see that huge gap. Companies are rushing into AI adoption, and I understand because they want to improve performance and productivity and all other things without thinking about security, right? And when it comes to security and trustworthiness, that's where we see the gaps. So what they need to do, they need to start thinking about how they can protect, secure, and train their employees properly before widely deploying all these chatbots and generative AIs in their environments.
You know, you make me think, because I would much rather the human still be used as opposed to the machine. But again, chatbots are here to stay. But even if that was a human, the human would be susceptible to being taken advantage of. But we would do our very best to train that human so they don't get caught in a scheme.
True. You know, for the human, we have the leverage of training. We have even the possibility of getting the work checked, because the speed of the work is much lesser in compared with the AIs, right? So the moment that you replace a process which used to be done by a human with an AI agent, we are dealing with like very fast speed processes that's checking them, validating them, and making sure that the human who's supposed to be in the loop can make the right decision when the AI cannot, is a significant challenge, right? So what I'm saying is, like, many of these companies are claiming that when they are deploying these AIs, they have met the standard requirements, or some of them are saying that they have human in the loop. But when you talk even with the human who's supposed to be in the loop, they are complaining that how can we have the control over this such a fast adopted technology with tons of data that are coming and going, right? So I can see that gap being significantly used by the attackers.
Ali, it's fascinating research. Really appreciate you making time on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Great talking to you. Cheers.
Ali Dehantana is a professor and Canada Research Chair in Cybersecurity and Threat Intelligence at the University of Guelph. He didn't steal the information from the Fortune 500 company. Just like in the movies, he was tasked with determining how secure that information was when he interacted with an internal chatbot. I know I sound like a Luddite in this, but truly, I'm bluntly freaked out by the technology, how fast it has advanced, what it is capable of, and how it seems to me, much like I talk about in a different manner, I suppose, with all of the e-powered, the electric battery-assisted vehicles on our roads. We've got too many and not enough regulation, in my opinion, and we're starting to deal with the consequences. I feel similarly about this. So much use of the technology, so little regulation around it, so little control of it. I don't think we fully understand what it is capable of, and I think that's what Ali's research gets to the bottom of here. What was it, 1983, 1984? I don't know. In the early 80s, the movie War Games and the computer that started a global thermonuclear war. That's all I needed to see. And I was only like 12 years old at the time. I was done with AI when I was 12. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I wanted to share this story with you. And I don't know if I should tell you how I came across the story, because I don't want to give away too many trade secrets. But it's pretty simple on the surface. Couple of guys out for a jog as part of a social media challenge. But then they run into trouble with the law for a quote-unquote petty crime. And it just so happened that this happened in uptown Waterloo. I've gotten to the bottom of the story. I've got something that I think needs to be said about it. But how did this social media challenge go awry in Waterloo? Man, let me tell you this much. It is tough being a regional police officer. The story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I apologize for keeping the secret from you as to how I came across the headline, but suffice to say that I did. It's legit. I'm not making the story up. And it reads as follows: Ontario runners arrested for petty crime during social media challenge. Subhead: a video of a Waterloo man has gone viral after he and a friend were arrested for something runners commonly do. Pause. please, because that's not the entire story. But obviously, it piqued my interest enough. By the way, this story comes from runningmagazine.ca, so it's not like it was one of those BuzzFeed page, whatever those goofy websites are that try to get you with clickbait. This is a magazine for runners published online, and this is allegedly 2 runners getting arrested for something runners commonly do. But I disagree with that point. The social media challenge was these 2 young fellas said they would run a kilometer for every 100 followers they gain on social media, with the goal of eventually running a marathon, which would be 4,200 then followers, 42 kilometers, 1 kilometer run for every 100 followers. So they get up to day 7 of their challenge. They've got 700 followers. They're going to go out for a 7-kilometer run. And they're on the streets of uptown Waterloo, right near the corner of King and Herb, to be exact. But you see, they couldn't have been right at the corner because they crossed the road illegally, away from the intersection, away from the signalized crossing. In other words, they were jaywalking. That's the petty crime that the story talks about. But there's more to the story than that, at least from my perspective. So I've got some audio here for you from the video that these 2 young men posted. It's not the best, but I did my best to clean it up, and hopefully you can hear this exchange between a member of the Waterloo Regional Police Service and the runner who was pulled over, essentially, stopped for jaywalking.
I need a name and a date of birth. 142? Yeah, what year? 2005. I don't care about your dad because your dad's not here. What I care about right now is you just crossed this road under the highway traffic. You have to identify that. I care about you right now. Where do you live, Peter?
Not here.
What's your address? Where do you live?
Arizona.
Because you're not answering my question.
I gave you my name.
Where's your address? Where do you live?
I forgot.
So this is the interaction between a member of the Waterloo Regional Police Service and this runner. I don't know how well that came through for you, but the bottom line is, once stopped for jaywalking, this young man refuses to provide his name, his address, says he forgets where he lives. Then he says he lives in Arizona and is not giving the officer anything. I would submit to you, and as I said before the break, welcome to a day in the life of a police officer these days. Like these couple of yahoos out there running in a dangerous manner into traffic or crossing a road illegally. I will bet you dollars to donuts that this whole thing would have just gone away with a, hey guys, can you please be more careful when you're running around the streets? If they had just been more pleasant. Instead, what do they resort to? Jackwagonry, right? So doesn't give the name, doesn't give an address, and now all of a sudden the police officer is on the defensive, right? Who is this person? Why won't he tell me his name and his address? Why won't he provide identification? Because now you don't know what else this person might be involved in, for example. The whole thing would have gone away if you had just been cooperative, pleasant, maybe, I'm sorry, I was just trying to get across the road to continue my running route through Waterloo Park, which, based on the video, looks like where they were headed. Whatever it was, it costs you nothing to be kind. Courtesy is really easy. And this poor officer, just trying to do her job in uptown Waterloo, gets met with that sort of response when she says, hey, you ought not cross the road that way. It all would have gone away. So the end of the story here, the bottom line is they didn't get arrested for a quote-unquote petty crime, something runners commonly do. They didn't. This guy didn't get arrested for jaywalking. He got arrested for failing to provide the information that the officer was asking for. You were stopped for doing something illegal. You must now identify yourself. You don't do that, into the back of the cruiser you go. You, young man, despite what Running Magazine wants us to believe, are going to jackwagon jail. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our update in the 570 News Center, let's go to the phones, hear from you about the runners allegedly arrested for jaywalking. No, they weren't. They were arrested. One of them was for not providing the information that the police officer in Waterloo was asking for. Patrick, good morning. Whoa, Patrick, where are you, buddy? Okay, I don't know where you are, Patrick, but your phone is underwater. Please rise from the depths of the lake if you're in Silver Lake at Waterloo Park and try again with a better connection. Mary, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mike. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. This is my husband's story, actually, and he was conscripted in the Army. He was in Germany. He was charged with jaywalking at 2 a.m. and was given a fine.
Well, it is on the books. It's a law. Like, it can happen.
No, I'm talking about Germany. In the 1960s.
Well, as far as I know, Mary, jaywalking has been around as a law on the books for a long time.
I'll tell you right now, there's a whole pile of people that jaywalk all the time.
I couldn't agree more. And this is why, as I said, I will bet you dollars to donuts, had these young men been more congenial, more cooperative, this would have been a case of, can you please, just be really, you shouldn't do that. It's a dangerous thing to do. Instead, they act like jackwagons, and you do jackwagon things, you get jackwagon results. I felt awful for the officer. Who needs this in their day? That's my 2 cents on it. All right, I got to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then I need you, please, to help me settle something with my buddy who brought this up the other day. And I haven't brought it up on the show yet, and he's given me the gears. He's like, can you please get to the bottom of this for me? I said, I will, because when I need something solved, I come to you because you can always solve it for me. So please help me understand St. Agatha or St. Agatha. To me, there's only one possible answer to this. We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just one more little tidbit, news-wise, following that update from Matt. Before we get into the flip side today, I've been made aware by Waterloo Region Community Legal Services that Ontario's Superior Court of Justice has ruled in favor of encampment residents in Kitchener, which means the region of Waterloo has to pump the brakes on its site-specific bylaw that is intended to clear the encampment at Weber and Victoria by the end of this year. So the court is making the region pause this until it can determine the constitutionality of the bylaw in November. So I guess in sum, I would say the region could still move forward with its plans to clear that encampment and get ready for construction of the transit hub. Yeah, right. By the end of the year. But they're not going to be able to move along any more of those encampment residents until the court has had a chance to decide on the constitutionality of the bylaw in November. But the decision received this morning from Ontario's Superior Court of Justice says that it is in favor of the encampment residents and their right to life and liberty and protection of their home on that corner of Weber and Victoria in Kitchener. So that is a story that just continues to unfold in this community and many others. Okay, Thursday mornings at this time, we take a break from the heavier stuff. Maybe we'll come back to that during the Talkback Hour at noon today. But what we do on Thursday mornings at 11:30 is a little bit of what I like to call a palate cleanser. Have a little bit of fun, and I'm hoping that you can help me get to the bottom of this. I mean, I thought I was at the bottom of it because, quite frankly, I only see one answer to this particular question. But my buddy brought it up. He's a good buddy. He's a smart guy. I thought, you know what? If we can't agree on something, or maybe I don't know the reason why it might be a different way, I'm going to take it to you and find out. And he thought that was a great idea. And then I went on vacation and I didn't bring this up yet. And he's starting to bug me. He says, Mike, get to the bottom of this thing, would you? So here we go. You know as well as I do that we live in a really unique community when it comes to the places that we live. For example, one of our townships, Wellesley. I had Mayor Joe Nowak on this show years ago talking about the correct pronunciation of the township of Wellesley. And for most of us, I think we make it a 2-syllable word, right? Wellesley. But for the locals, it might actually be 3 syllables with a little bit of a Wellesley in there. Wellesley. And so we had this conversation about how to properly pronounce it. I've talked earlier today about the town of Elmira in the township of Woolwich. I know that's not universally popular. I like dropping that second W. I believe that it is the way it could/should be done. But I know also that both ways are deemed acceptable. It's Woolwich or Woolwich. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure you can go either way and nobody really fusses about it. I got an email earlier this week, going a little bit outside the region, but from a listener in Palmerston, which many of us would know as Palmerston in Wellington County, up towards Harriston. And I know for certain from folks who are from there or still live there, if you live there, it's Palmerston. If you're from outside, it's Palmerston. So it brings it around full circle to my buddy who grew up with family in St. Agatha. And when they would leave their home in Kitchener, they would travel to St. Agatha to visit the family. And so my buddy asks me a little while ago, what is it? Is it St. Agatha or St. Agatha? And I said, well, of course it's St. Agatha because that's the only possible answer to the question. I like to read on occasion, and I have read many a book in my day by Agatha Christie. I have not read a book by Agatha Christie. So how on earth could it actually be St. Agatha? And I mean, I think I know enough folks in the village to understand. I don't think it's like Palmerston and Palmerston. If you're from there, it's one thing. If you're not, it's another. If you live in St. Agatha and you call it St. Agatha and you can explain to me why, that would be wonderful. I would love to know the origins of that. But as far as I can tell, it's a name, Agatha. Many people, if your name is Agatha, do people call you Agatha? So like I said, to me, this is a simple answer. There is only one answer to this. I can't imagine how or why it would be Agatha, unless I don't know my German as well as I thought. Is there something French with Agath? But I don't think the French often use a th sound, right? So I cannot, for the life of me, figure it out. And I brought this up this morning as well with our morning news anchor, Christine Clark, and she said immediately, without hesitation, St. Agatha. Like, are you sure about that, though? Christine insisted that when she started working here, she was informed that's the way it's supposed to be said. So have I been wrong all this time? My buddy who used to go to visit family in St. Agatha wanted to know. And if it is Agatha, or there is an acceptable pronunciation both ways, why is it? Where does the Agatha come from? It's one of the local mysteries that I think we need to solve. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Help me out. And specifically from St. Agatha, if you're there, let me know. St. Agatha, St. Agatha. And if it's Agatha, which just does not make sense to me, help me understand why. Why would we pronounce the name Agatha in that way? I've been wrong before. I'm happy to be told how wrong I am this time, but I can't figure out any other way. To me, it's a clear-cut St. Agatha answer. I'll go to the phones. Grant, are you going to solve this problem for me?
I would say St. Oh, gosh, now you got me.
Yeah, exactly. You see what happens?
St. Agatha. Oh,
no, it's St. Agatha. You're right. It can't be anything else.
And it would drive me nuts when Dad would say sandwich. He would put a V in there. Sandwich.
Sandwich.
What the heck are you talking about, Dad. My goodness.
Oh, Grant, you make me laugh because you remind me of my mom. Love you, Mom, but I'm going to out you on this one. She has the funniest way of pronouncing two words in particular. One is package, and the other is Saturday. For my mom, package has always been paggage. I don't know, last time I checked, it was CK in there, not a couple of G's. Not baggage, it's package. That's how she describes a package. And Saturday is always Saturday. I can understand that because you just want to get it over with. I mean, you don't want to get the day over with, but Saturday is a lot to say. So she goes with Saturday. Saturday and packages, just like Grant's dad in Sandwich. But St. Agatha, St. Agatha, it has got to be St. Agatha. I love Ivan's email to Mike at 570news.com. How about Kappas casing, Mike? I always forget. I'm going to have to go back and find it. The internet will surely tell me. A legendary, well-known news broadcaster / anchor. I'm pretty sure that's where I got the story. But for Kappas casing, kapuskasing, because that's how this news anchor allegedly said it back in the day. But it is Kappas casing, of course. It's not kapuskasing. And I like to joke about Kincardine, which is Kincardine, right up there by Port Elgin, because I hear the folks up there like to make jokes about Kincardine. But I'm trying to keep it right here in the good old region of Waterloo and get to the bottom of the St. Agatha discussion here. Mike, a first-time caller on our show. Welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Mikey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. I'm a former St. Jerome's boy as well.
Oh, I love my Jerry's boys. Good man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Captain of the volleyball team. I was a couple of years behind you, but our fathers actually went to school together as well.
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
Bernie and my father Terry. So, anyways, I'm a Dietrich from the St. Agatha clan. They grew up on Burlitz Road. There was 11 boys, 4 girls, and if you can imagine them at the Greenwood Rod and Gun, which was their K-8 schoolhouse.
Sure.
That was the schoolhouse. There was the Dietrichs from St. Agatha.
Really? So, do you have any idea, Mike, where that comes from?
I have no idea. It sounds more like almost like a local slang, like your Palmerston, to be honest with you.
Yep.
And now that I have friends that live in what they call St. Agatha, I look at them like they got 2 heads.
So it's always St. Agatha to you?
Always been. All around the North Waterloo Fast Pitch League, it's St. Jacob, St. Clements, and St. Agatha.
No kidding.
Yeah, it is what it is. And by the way, I got a bit of a funny story from St. Jerome's for you if you want to hear.
Absolutely.
Okay, first year as a Niner, first day at school, we're doing our little roll call, and as soon as my name comes up, who do you think stands up? Chugger.
Come on.
He finds out I'm a Dietrich, and he stands up and looks at about 4 or 5 guys in the class, points at him, and says, "No touch."
Oh, I love it.
No touch. So I had Chugger's backing right from the start.
What a stone cold beauty that guy is, eh?
Absolutely. He saved my butt like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, quick before I let you go. I happen to know you mentioned Dietrich in St. Agatha. So Ken and Connie are friends of mine in St. Agatha. They're Dietrichs. Any relation along the path there?
It's so big that quite likely are they our age?
No, they're a little bit older.
A little bit older, so they might be in between. I'm the grandson of the second eldest.
Okay.
So it's spread out, and most of them have passed, unfortunately, by now. But we get together. There's pushing 1,000 people at Fleetwood Rod and Gun every couple of years.
Amazing. Well, listen,
I
love having you on the show. Thanks for sharing some input on this.
Rock and roll. Thanks.
All right, Mike. Good to hear from you. You know, we love our first-time callers on this show. And a Dietrich from St. Agatha. It's like saying a Martin from Elmira, right? I told you that earlier today when Brady signed his entry-level contract with the Nashville Predators. Brady Martin from Elmira. Martin, I was doing the public address announcing for Hockey Day in Rangers Nation way back when. And it's a bunch of minor hockey teams that would get to come in and have the full Kitchener Rangers experience at the Memorial Auditorium. So I'm on the PA announcing the goals, the penalties, and whatnot. And we had the team from Woolwich. Why am I forgetting who they were? Nonetheless, one of the goals was scored by a Martin, from a Martin, and a Chance. I was just hoping we could get a goal scored by Martin, from Martin, and Martin. We couldn't quite get there. But Dietrichs in St. Agatha. I'll take Mike's word for it. Maybe it's one of those things where if you're from there, it's Agatha. And the Greenwood Rod and Gun Club. I had a few good fish fries out there back in the day. We'll continue the flip side. Help us out here. Mike seems to be onto something. A Dietrich from St. Agatha. Is it a thing that if you're from there, did we just get lazy over the years and turn it into St. Agatha? Help me out here on the flip side with the answer to the eternal Waterloo region question. St. Agatha, St. Agatha, Uma, Oprah. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, Ivan's email sent me down a rabbit hole when he asked, how do you pronounce Kappas casing? Because I remember a story, I feel like it was told to me during my college days, about a very well-known news anchor. I believe he had been on the CBC, but regardless, having once mispronounced Kappas casing as kapuskasing. I Googled it to try to find an answer during the commercial break. What I found instead is a great little story from Kappas casing saying this is how it's pronounced. People from the South never seem to get it right. Kappas casing is right, according to the source in Kappas casing. But the story, and this is the part I don't think you'll believe, goes on to analyze Google search data for global cities, how to pronounce them. And the top 5 in Canada, one of them for sure is gonna blow your mind. I'll get to that in a moment, but I can't. The top 5 most commonly searched Canadian cities on Google, asking the Google how to pronounce them. I'll share them with you in a second. One of them is going to blow your mind. Afif, good morning. You're on the flip side. How do we say it? St. Agatha, St. Agatha?
Hey, Mike. So I normally say St. Agatha.
You do? Why? Who taught you that?
Because I usually say Agatha before, and then I went to the actual city, St. Agatha. And I talked to one of the guys, and he's like, yeah, all the people over here actually say everyone everywhere else ruined it for us. I was like, really?
Right.
Why?
Yeah. See, I get that. So it sounds like one of those things where if you're there or from there, it's Agatha, and the rest of us from outside of St. Agatha call it Agatha. George, good morning.
Yeah, 00 George here. How you doing, Mike?
00 George, Farwell's Force member, 00. I'm great. How are you?
That's right. I'm doing good, thank you. How about the other one,
Palmerston?
Exactly. I can't get over that. To me, and most people I know it's Palmerston, but if you're in town, yeah, it's Palmerston.
You nailed it, George. And I referenced that earlier because of the fine folks I know from the beautiful town of Palmerston. They taught me that. If you're from here, it's Palmerston. All you outsiders, you people who are from away, call it Palmerston. Betty is with us on the flip side. Betty, is this your first time calling our show?
Yes, this is.
Yes!
I
love it, Betty. Welcome aboard.
Okay. My brother is Rockin' Ronnie.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And the reason I grew up in Petersburg, as Ronnie did, and it was always St. Agatha.
No kidding, eh?
Yeah, that's what it always was. So I understand the way that you think it should be St. Agatha, but it was always St. Agatha. Another thing, just pronunciation, is my dad they went on a trip one time, and he's like, "We're going to Nassau in the Bahamas," and I said, "Do you mean Nassau in the Bahamas?" Oh, I guess so. So it's, I think there's just so many different ways to say things that there's no real reason like you're looking for. Probably, I don't know.
No, but I think what we're getting at is if you're from there, it's St. Agatha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or close to there, yeah.
All right, Betty, you tell your brother I say hi.
Okay, I will, for sure. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great to hear from you today. Teresa, good morning.
Hi, Mike. First of all, before I get to St. Agatha, I'm going to challenge you for another program, the issue of Wallenstein or Wallenstein in Township of Wellesley. But anyway.
Well, wait. Which is it, though? Oh, you want us to find out?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's Wallenstein, but I'll take that challenge. Okay.
Okay. So I've always known Saint Agatha as being San Agatha. Even you even slur the saint sometimes. But I wonder. My husband and I are in the car, and we were chatting, and we wonder how the church and the school are pronounced. Is it Saint Agatha Church and School, or Saint Agatha? And maybe if it's pronounced Saint Agatha Church, maybe there's a distinction so that when you're saying, "Are we going to Saint Agatha?" you're talking about the town and not the church.
So,
but that all depends on how the church and the school are pronounced.
I could go to Saint Agatha Church in Saint Agatha.
Yeah. That kind of makes it a little more interesting, right?
Yeah, we're really making it clear for people today, Teresa.
This is a never-ending question, I think.
I think it is, but I appreciate you weighing in.
I'm not going to give away my age, but I'm in my 60s, and it's always been Saint Agatha.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for that.
All right.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Mike, who called earlier, fellow St. Jerome's boy, said, my father and his father went to school together. My father, in his career as an educator, was the principal at the school in St. Agatha. At least that's always what we said. Laura, good morning.
Hi, Mike. I grew up in Waterloo, and I was always told it was St. Agatha.
Really? How did I miss this memo?
I have always called it St. Agatha until my husband pointed out, no, it's St. Agatha. And I said, well, I grew up calling it St. Agatha. And he goes, well, I'm pretty sure it's St. Agatha. There's no saint named Agatha.
That's exactly.
So,
see, your husband and I, we think similarly.
There you go. But
okay.
Yeah, I grew up calling it St. Agatha. So
thanks for sharing that, Laura.
I don't know if it's just, from inside, the people that live in St. Agatha.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. I got to get to an update from the 570 News Center, but I'm going to, those 5 Canadian cities that people go to the Google and ask how to pronounce, still coming up. One of them is going to blow you away. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. What has an analysis of Google search data revealed as the 5 most commonly mispronounced Canadian city names? I'm getting to that, and I'm getting to Doug's call right after this update from the 570 News Center. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
The Talkback Hour, every day, noon until 1, open phone lines so you can talk back. It's really as simple as that. Make the call, we'll answer, and happily entertain the conversation. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Doug, good afternoon.
Hello, Mike. Two quick stories about St. Agatha.
Okay, keep them coming.
My uncle Cecil, who was also my godfather, farmed outside of Petersburg, and Highway 7 and 8 went right through the middle of his farm. But anyway, he was heavily involved with the church in St. Agatha, and when they went to bury somebody in the cemetery in St. Agatha, the records were spotty, so they would have him come and wicken for bones in the cemetery. And if he told them there was bones there, they did not dig there.
Come on.
Seriously, like the priest would request him to come and wicken for bones.
Wow.
After he passed away, they actually named a street, a new crescent in Petersburg after him. So his memory lives on.
I love that.
The other story is, as I said, Uncle Cecil Kennedy. I'm Doug Kennedy. My brother's Rich Kennedy. We were coming back from Stratford one night, and we stopped into Kennedy's in St. Agatha.
Of course you did.
So the owner was there. We showed him our licenses that we were Kennedy's, expecting he would buy us a beer. Well, guess what? He charged us for the beer. I said to him, I don't need to see your license. I know you're a Kennedy.
That is perfect. I love it. I love it.
Okay, but so you got the point. We always called it St. Agatha.
So real quick before I let you go, those are great stories. Thank you so much for them. So as somebody that knows it so well and understands it to be St. Agatha, do you cringe when outsiders like me call it St. Agatha?
I correct them.
Okay. Consider me corrected. I will St. Agatha my way through the rest of my days.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Doug. Great to hear from you. Oh, I love that story. They charged him for the beer in the bar that is bearing their name. You don't get a Kennedy discount when you go to Kennedy's. Okay, I've promised this. I came across this by accident, but one of the cities on the list just kind of blew my mind. So when we were talking in the last half hour on the flip side about St. Agatha versus St. Agatha, and it was unanimous, by the way. Every single one of you that shared a thought on it came up with St. Agatha. Sounds like we've either just gotten lazy over time or given up or whatever, but I stand corrected. I will forever now say St. Agatha, even though it didn't make sense to me. I thought coming into this there was only one correct answer, which would have been Agatha, like Agatha Christie. Nonetheless, it's St. Agatha. So during that conversation, I got an email from Ivan. He said, yeah, but what about Kappa's casing? Which I know how to pronounce, but I remembered a story about a news anchor who had famously mispronounced it. So I tried to find that story by Googling, and instead I came across a story from Timmins near Kappa's casing that talked about how Southern Ontarians mispronounce Kappa's casing. And then it goes on to say, an analysis of Google search data has provided for us a list of the 5 most mispronounced Canadian cities. So the Google search data would say how to say or how to pronounce insert city name here. So based on the number of those searches, these are the 5 most mispronounced Canadian city names. Number 1, Quebec, which I totally get. And it's one of my favorite things about Shoresy/Letterkenny, if you've ever watched it, because they always say it, each character will say it a different way. Quebec, 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 etc. Quebec, the number 1 most mispronounced Canadian city. Number 2, Toronto. I guess I kind of get it. I lived there for a bit. I like to call it Toronto, but we know when you're not from here, when you are very emphatic about the T's. Toronto, right? It's Toronto. That's the second most mispronounced Canadian city name. In third place, and this one surprised me, not as much as the next one, but in third place, Ottawa. I don't know how or why that would ever be difficult to say. It's also, by the way, our nation's capital. I mean, I can say Washington as well. Nonetheless, Ottawa, the third most mispronounced Canadian city. The 5th, Niagara Falls. I guess so. Niagara, whatever, Niagara Falls. But number 4, and this is the one that blew my mind. The 4th most mispronounced name, Canadian city name, is Cambridge. I mean, what? You think it's Cambridge? Cambridge? I just don't get that. Maybe it's because I'm from here. Maybe it's because of Cambridge, Massachusetts, or the University of. But Cambridge is Cambridge. It's always going to be Cambridge unless you call it Preston, Hespler, or Galt. Maybe even Blair. Maybe that's the problem. Anyway, Cambridge, according to the Google search data, the 4th most mispronounced city name in Canada. Blows my mind. But hey, we also learned today that it's not St. Agatha. When you're going out to Hurley's for some corn, you're going to St. Agatha. This is the Mike Farwell Show. Talk Back continues. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We open the phones to you every day from noon until 1 for Talkback. Right back to the lines we go. Walter, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Hey, isn't that probably, the best case, to bring back phonics in school?
Hooked on phonics worked for me, Walter.
Yeah, me too, buddy. So I have another question for you. Have you ever heard of a spot up north? It's called, actually, Boschkong, a brewery.
Boschkong.
Yeah.
No, I have not. Where is it?
Then,
is Boschkong the place or the brewery?
Well, it's a lake up there.
A lake.
That's the name of the brewery, too.
Okay.
But they have a beer in there, Mike. I'm going to see if I can get you one. I think you'll love it.
All right. Well, besides the lake, where is this lake? What township? What city? What municipality? Where is it?
It's in Algonquin Highlands.
Algonquin Highlands. Okay. All right. I was just up that way. I wish I had known.
Yeah, up in Halliburton area.
Oh, yeah. It's gorgeous. Okay. I'll look for it.
Yeah. Okay, good. And it's called 35 118 beer. And
that's got to be the highway.
Yes, that's an intersection that they named the beer after, but
okay.
They're not located there. They're actually located in Minden.
Oh, yeah, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well,
okay, so
you know how to find me, Walter. Send beer anytime, pal.
Yeah, I've heard that before. So, also, I wanted to get your opinion on what's going on, with Trump. That I listened to a fellow there the other day, and he's talking about how that the U.S. is moving towards a state run of democracy, which is exactly what China is, and at a rapid pace. Like, that's kind of scary. Like, this guy, he does not want to leave. Like, in another 3 years, he's going to be doing everything he can to hang around, and I just thought that that would be one way that he would go, that he would attempt it, So there's a couple things for you to chew on, Mike. Okay, thanks, buddy, and I'm looking forward to hockey season, and I'll talk to you later.
All right, Walter, thank you. Boy, that's running the gamut from a nice beer from a brewery in the Algonquin Highlands to Donald Trump. I find it difficult to disagree with that Donald Trump sentiment that you shared. It is rather alarming when you see the National Guard being called in to maintain some sense of order, overruling the local police, etc. So, yeah, I would be lying if I said I was not concerned, for sure. Terry, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. When you mentioned that Cambridge is one of the names that's misspelled, I work with someone. They don't
not
live
misspelled,
in that area.
but mispronounced.
Mispronounced. Sorry,
yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
slip. Yeah, mispronounced. Sorry. I work with someone. They're not from that area. They're from near St. Thomas. That's where they reside. But he always says Cambridge. So
no kidding, eh?
I never thought of that.
Yeah, I guess
even when he says that, it never crossed my mind.
Makes sense.
And about Palmerston, Mike. Years ago, there used to be a pitcher called Jim Palmer. I never heard him say Palmer.
I know, Terry. I get you, and I'm looking at the palm of my hand right now.
That's right. That's what I was going to say. You always say my palm, not my palm. But anyway,
I like my palm trees. I get it all. Yeah.
But going back to that thing in Lindsay, I think we shouldn't be so critical of the police. They must know something. I know that you had Ari Goldkind this morning. He said that I think the big mistake the cops are making is they're not, they're not saying what the situation was. They're keeping tight-lipped about it. But I'm thinking these two characters probably knew each other. There's a lot of people out there that hate my guts, but I don't think any of them would ever break into my house at 3 a.m. And if they did, what am I going to use to defend myself? I have a baseball bat, but it's well buried in my basement. I'm not going to be able to get down there in time. I can hit them with a kitchen chair, I guess, or an end table or something like that. But I think that there's more to this story than we are led to believe. I think just let the police do their thing and don't be too critical of them. I'm sure they have some information that they don't want to, divulge right now. But I'm thinking, my mind, I could be wrong, mind you, but I'm thinking these two guys knew each other. And like I said before, I think it was some sort of retribution. But we'll let the courts deal with him. I think, in my opinion, I think the police did the right thing in charging because I think he was just beating a dead horse. Once you have someone down, there's no point in just constantly beating them to death.
All right.
Or near death. Anyway, yeah, thanks, Mike. That was my take on it.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. Listen, something that Ari said this morning that I think makes sense, and I'm with Terry. I don't think the police deserve any blame in this. They're doing their job, and they don't lay charges willy-nilly. Something that Ari talked about when we talked about this on the show earlier today is if the person whose home was invaded made the call and say there's this guy, or police arrived and, you know, the man admitted, yeah, I beat this guy, whatever, you've already then helped the prosecution with the burden of proof if you are the guilty party. It wasn't some extraterrestrial that magically came into your apartment and beat the intruder, for example. So you've probably indicted yourself to some degree, leaving police with very little choice but to lay a charge. Something else to consider in this. Jim, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Great. I was going to talk about the traffic situation, but your story with the strange names for cities brought a story to mind from my past. My late son and I were playing golf at Rockaway, and it was just the two of us with the tee time, and the starter asked if we would let a couple kind of join in with us, and we said, sure, no problem. And while we were waiting to tee off, we asked them where they were from, and they said they're from BC visiting their son. And they intended on playing, as being avid golfers, were intending on playing as many courses in our area as possible. So I asked them where they had already played, and they said, well, they played in Elmira and this other place, Conestogo.
Conestogo. When I was a kid, we called it Cones to Go.
Yeah. So it was like most people, either Conestogo or Conestoga, you know. Like,
yeah.
But when they said Conestogo, I bit my tongue because I was ready to burst out laughing.
That's a good one, Jim. That's a good one.
Fantastic.
Thanks for sharing it.
I really wanted to talk about some of the traffic situation, but it's going to be a drawn-out thing. So I'm going to let the other people get in today and enjoy it. I'm also supposed to ask you for a number because I don't call in that often, but I listen a lot.
Well, you know what? I would be more than happy to bequeath you with number 138, Jim.
There you go.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. You have yourself a great day and a great weekend.
You also. Great to hear from you. If you call once, if you call infrequently, if you call every day, we are building Farwell's force. It's a force for good. It's a force for change. It's a force to be reckoned with. And Jim just got in there at number 138. You can claim your number and be a member of our force for good anytime. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is a busy Talkback hour already. Phone lines are jammed. Let's go next to Dave. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. I was born and raised in Teal. And
in where, sorry?
T-O. You know that big metropolis city?
Oh, T-O. I'm sorry, Dave. Yes, okay.
I refuse anymore. I haven't said the name for a good 20 years because 99% of people would not understand it. So and then I was told decades ago by a teacher that the English language is a living language. So there's no such thing as mispronouncing. So I just thought I'd throw that in. And I'm proud I was born and raised, would never visit anymore in the city of Teal, but that's my story. Have a great day.
Thanks, Dave. I really like that. English, the language is always evolving, so there are no mispronunciations. Interesting. And it makes my life easier. I'll never mispronounce anything again. Kyle, good afternoon.
It's crazy. You have hockey next week. I'm at the rink tomorrow for an exhibition game, so it's nice to be back. What happened in Lindsay here, let's put it this way. I think the biggest problem that I have is the protection of criminals over the homeowner. You can't protect your own house. And
oh, Kyle, that's 2 days in a row. You're just murdering me. I know Kyle is out on the road and he's a courier by trade. So I get that he's always in different places, but that's 2 days in a row where your phone has really been rough, Kyle. So I'm sorry that I can't get more of that from you. If you get into a better cell area, I'd love to hear more about it, because I would say in this case, I'm not sure that the alleged criminal is being given greater protection than the homeowner. However, we might be able to make the case that they're equal. I don't know. There is certainly some protection for the alleged criminal in this case, and I understand the frustration with that. I'm not sure I would say that the criminal or alleged criminal gets more protection from our system. That leaves a couple lines open for you on Talkback as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. And right back to the phones we go. Ernie, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Hey, Mike, just questioning in about some of Terry's comments there. We all know that it was excessive. Like the guy hit him probably more than what he should have. But I'm also trying to put it back in a personal shoe, in your shoe, my shoe. When you get woken up in the middle of the night like that, and there's a threat in your home, you don't rationally think reasonable force. You think it's basically that flight risk thing that goes off in your brain that you're going to do what you have to do to protect your family or protect whatever's going on. So if we bring in castle law, I totally will feel, and I think the jury is going to find this guy innocent, which I hope happens. But also, too, at that point, there's going to be a lot less break-in in our area in Canada with crime rising the way it is. When there's more of a fear of the criminal to actually go and premeditate, so this guy's premeditated. He knows what he's doing. He's going in. Compared to a guy that's probably startled, woken up, and to be in that situation is night and day. We can't. It's not the same law here that should apply at all. That's my opinion from that, and just from personal experience of being woken up in the middle of the night and thinking what you would do and be in that situation.
And let's be like the same. I'm not sure the same law applies here, right? The law does allow for the homeowner to use force. Where we run into the questions is how we determine the reasonableness of that force.
Like, you can't be in that reasonable state of mind when
I get
that
you.
happens.
That's a fair point. Absolutely.
And, so that's my point on that. And I just want to say, too, I was talking to a buddy of mine. He was in the military, Afghanistan, rules of engagement. He was under fire, and he's been in a few firefights there. And he always said when it came to the question of rules of engagement, and he just said, Ernie, my peers, I'll let them judge me rather than be carried by six. And he said almost all guys are like that. And that's one of these instances where, yes, exactly. And I just like, Zen, you nailed it. So, Mike, that's my opinion on that. Thanks.
All right, Ernie. And that same phrasing is what Ari Goldkind used when we talked about it earlier today. I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I totally get that. I'm not certain that this will even get to a trial by jury. It may. And I don't think also, as Ernie said, he thinks this homeowner would be found innocent. I'm not sure. But I do believe the charges and or sentence would be less. We'll have to see. Obviously, police had a reason for laying the charge. I'll come back to something I said when we talked about this earlier today. One of my greatest frustrations is that of the many charges that this intruder is facing, one is for not following the terms of his probation. So that says to me, obviously, if you have some sort of probationary term, you have already been in contact with our system. And that system deemed you not enough of a threat so that you could be out or whatever. And I don't like that part of this at all. It feels to me as though the system let down this homeowner. And if you feel that frustration and you get the sense that the system is letting you down, then frankly, why wouldn't you do something within your own power to correct that wrong if you feel let down by the system? Manny, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. I called a couple months ago on Ask the Chief, actually, about home invasions and what's an allowable amount of force. And I knew the answer we would get, and it's, strewn out all throughout this debate now. And it's interesting because you said, people were talking about, well, what's reasonable force? Well, is it reasonable to expect somebody to enter your home when you're sleeping, right? So I guess that's kind of like we're trying to measure between those two things. And the problem here is when we talk about what the laws are, what legislation is out there, well, we don't have the tools, to defend ourselves against these types of intrusions in our lives, right? So, and I'm not recommending that it be, tools as in like a baseball bat or something worse to a home intruder. It's the tools that the system should help arm the populace with, and it's proper self-defense rules. Someone's talked about the castle law, but I would like to see something change in Canada's self-defense laws, and it's.
What would you like to see change?
Well, I'd just like to see that, then there to be a proper determination on exactly what the crossing of a threshold is, right? So,
well, that threshold is currently defined as reasonable.
Right, and reasonable I don't think is good enough. I think
it's
that needs
too vague.
To be defined.
Okay,
yeah, I think it is
more,
because
okay.
Yeah, because Mike, I'd say we would probably both think it's pretty unreasonable, or most people listening, it's pretty unreasonable to enter somebody's home without permission.
No, I think
while they're sleeping with their family. Right?
I think that's a great point. It's a great point,
right?
For sure. But
So,
I guess
and
what I think I'm hearing, Manny, is that you would like the laws to be changed when you're talking about self-defense, so that you can defend yourself to the detriment of somebody else's life. Like if you kill somebody in self-defense, you think that should be you're off scot-free. That's what I think I'm hearing.
Oh, no, I think that's definitely extreme, and I would hope that it would never get to that. I think even if some people would think that's reasonable for breaking into someone else's home with their family sleeping in it, right? And I mean, that's why we have laws in courts, and the thing about juries, and I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. That's also a bit on the side of hyperbole, right? But, I would, and that's why we have manslaughter laws, because in the heat of the moment, there's all kinds of different things in the legal system to address these situations, which I just don't believe that when it comes to the word reasonable, that's fair to the victim, right? And I think that, you say a lot, Mike, that our health system is more of a sick care system. I think our legal system is a victim-based system, right? So if we are armed with better laws as a populace to protect ourselves, that's much more of a deterrent to potential criminality, in the places where we live, because the consequences could be more immediate and more severe, rather than waiting and going through the system, like you said about this individual, where they broke part of their probation or whatever they broke. I mean, obviously the system on that end for criminals isn't working.
I hear you, and I appreciate the call and the discussion. I would love to know a little bit more about what you'd like to see within the system, but I do not disagree that it feels as though it is a system that favors or provides too much leniency to the intruder in this case. I'm with you on that. I really have begun to feel that way. And I don't know if it's just that's the story. Those are the stories that are out there right now, or those are the stories that I'm reading, but I get it. I would say, as much as I support that idea, and I'll remind you what Ari Goldkind said earlier today, if you want to see things changed, talk to your MP. This is a federal issue. Get to your MP on this. And I hope you do. I really do. Because I have not yet talked to one person who is not on team homeowner in Lindsay, Ontario right now. I have not heard one person say that the homeowner did wrong here. So if you feel that strongly, please do talk to your MP. I'm not certain. I understand the sentiment, and I know why we go down and why we carry it to this conclusion. But I'm not certain that it would be the deterrent that you think it is. Somebody who is inclined to do the unreasonable thing of breaking into your home in the middle of the night, I'm not sure they would stop doing that just because they know that you might beat them within an inch of their life. I think they might still take their chances on that. That's my hunch. I get why you think it would be a stiffer deterrent. I'm not sure that it would be. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Right back to the phones on Talkback. It is a busy hour, but there is a line for you if you want to be a part of it. Andre, good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. Thank you for being in the middle of this all the time. A lot of heavy subject, but I'm going to take it smooth. 1 second. So when you propose to your wife, right?
Well, she's not my wife yet. She's going to be, though. She said yes. Okay.
So did you make her a sandwich like I said to you?
No, I did not make her a sandwich.
You didn't put the ring in it?
I did not put the ring in a sandwich, no.
Oh, my God. Mike.
I'm sorry, Andre. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Okay.
Carlos Lamb, he works for you guys. Is he a brother of Tanner Lamb?
No. Our weather forecaster? No.
Yeah.
No, he's not. Okay.
So
all right, Andre. You make me laugh so much. I just, he wants to take it smooth because we're doing all these heavy topics, and I get it. So did you put the ring that you presented to your beloved in a sandwich? No, I did not. And no, just because somebody has the same last name as a Kitchener Ranger player does not make them related in this case. Carl Lamb, one of our weather specialists, is a separate entity and family from Tanner Lamb of the Kitchener Rangers, who will be back on the ice with his teammates at the Memorial Auditorium when training camp opens next week. Maybe Andre and I can have a chat at the game, too. Greg, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
First of all, like the definition of cycle, it's going to be changing from time to time. You can't just
okay, Greg, I hate to break it to you. You got to get into a better cell zone, my friend, because your phone is breaking up badly. So please try when you have a better signal for us, because you're not coming through. Afif, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Okay, so with the pronunciation names, one of my friends, he came from Pakistan, and he's like, oh, it's Ottawa, and the other one, the worst one, Canada.
Really? So he didn't understand Ottawa?
Yeah.
Exactly. I get you.
Also for Canada, Canada, I was like, oh my God, wow. And the other thing is, I just wanted to ask this for, if you can also get some perspective on this one. News or news?
Oh, I like that one. Thank you, Afif. I am very fussy about news because there was a joke that used to go around, you news, you snooze. And I didn't want, right? News, snooze. So I'm very fussy about news. It's like an NYEWS. You're listening to 570 News Radio. Although when I say 570 News Radio, I'm pretty much a news guy, aren't I? Anyway, I don't want you to snooze while listening to the news. So I'm a little particular about that. Thank you for asking the question, though. Mary, good afternoon.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for making it.
Terry had said that they knew each other, but it's been many reports on the news and that he went into the wrong apartment.
Terry was guessing that they knew each other.
No,
I have not.
Well, they didn't.
Okay, they didn't.
No.
You've heard. I haven't heard that part yet.
No,
Mary.
I've heard it many times.
All right.
But listen.
Yes.
We weren't there. Could the guy have said to him, "I'm going to kill you"?
Lots of things could have happened. There is a lot that we don't know.
I'm trying to say.
Which guy? The intruder or the other one?
The intruder.
The intruder. Could he said, "I'm going to kill you"? He might have.
Well, yeah. So why wouldn't you protect yourself? I think this is absolutely disgusting. And also, you don't know every person's reaction.
That's a great point. How would you react? You think you know how you'd react.
How would you know the possibility of that person having PTSD and have gone through terrible situations and have PTSD? Come on. Listen. And the guy was wanted. So I just think this is, call your MPP. No, your Bardish Chager, because what's this guy? Our guy, he doesn't, provincially, he doesn't do nothing. But anyway, no, but I think you have to put yourself, I'd be scared silly.
Of course, many of us would be.
And I bet you would be too.
Of course I would be.
And we have to look at all scenarios. Like I said, PTSD.
Okay.
Did the guy say, "I'm going to kill you"? Yeah.
I got you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, these are great questions, and we don't know how we would react. And remember, the law does allow you to use force as long as it's reasonable, which is where the area gets a little more gray. Speaking of our politicians, and Bardish Chager, who was on our show earlier this month, spent an hour with us, or it was late July, answering questions, taking calls from you. Waterloo MPP, so a provincial politician, Catherine Fife, is going to do that same thing. I'll use this as an opportunity to shamelessly self-promote. Next Tuesday morning, From 11 until noon, a full hour with Ms. Fife in studio. She will take your calls. You can have your questions about the provincial politics answered right here on the show. Catherine Fife in studio for an hour, Tuesday, 11 until noon. Talkback continues today on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. And Talkback continues with Spencer this afternoon, who I understand, Spencer, you're a first-time caller on the show?
That is correct, Mike.
Yes!
I love it, Spencer. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I just want to say I appreciate what your show does for the community. And I think that your show allows a bunch of different people to express their opinions on issues that are important to everyone. And I think that it should be heralded and appreciated to what great journalism and news is and whatnot. So anyway, getting to my point, previous caller was commenting on the situation up in Kawartha Lakes where the homeowner was charged for defending himself for someone breaking into his house. And I can see both sides of the story, but I think, and I know Doug Ford made some comments last night that were on the news, and I think in the very much of the heat of the moment, I think he made some pretty intense comments to just straight out and say, okay, this homeowner was justified in using that kind of, probably somewhat deadly force to defend his home. And then the police chief clapped back and said, well, it's unjust to criticize when we don't know the full story. And I think what's inappropriate about what the police chief is saying is that when you are awoken in the middle of the night and someone is in your house and they are posing a threat to you, you do not have time to sit there and think, okay, what is proportionate in the situation? How do I figure this out? You have to defend yourself in that moment. It's different when you're in public and you're walking down the street and someone, starts a confrontation with you, throws a punch. Should you really pull out a gun on them and shoot them? No, but when you are on your own private property, you should be able to exercise any means to defend yourself. And I think the police chief has to, get off his high horse a little bit and understand that intruders can kill homeowners before police even arrive or before police are even called. Police arrive after the crime is committed. Police aren't there when the crime is being committed. So I think there needs to be a serious discussion on having some sort of a stand your ground law or a discussion of what really is proportionate to defending your home in Ontario.
Spencer, I really appreciate the call. Thanks for weighing in on the show. Great to hear from you.
Thank you, Mike.
And we got to end on that note because I'm almost up against the clock. Make sure you get to news on time, and then now you know with Rob Snow. Great discussions today. Let's have them again tomorrow. I'll come back at 9 tomorrow morning, and you're invited to join me then. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good.